Good day and welcome. Matthew here again. We are at the Nations Cup round 25, I think, in Austria, or the Red Bull Ring. We are in the Clio one make race. And we're off. I get a decent start, flicked on traction control for the start. Pulled away quite nicely, pulling up beside Holland. Nick McCosey started in third. I'm just ahead of him, but he disconnects right there. I don't go too deep, I just needed to fend off Holland for the first corner and get a good drive. Adam went really wide and he picks up a penalty for going so wide. So a bit unlucky there. Art Noble also got a good run off the start and through the first corner and pulls into third. So here I am, I just brake a little bit earlier than usual, get off the brakes for a moment because I thought I saw Holland make a move and he just goes and dives up the inside of me, which was a long way back and he was relying on my car to stop him, which is pretty rude to say the least. But I half expect it from him. Holland does go for marginal moves, which sometimes do and sometimes don't pay off, like that one. He dove so deep down the inside of Adam. I managed to get back past him and into second. Had a better run than Adam out of that hairpin. And I go to look, not close enough, so I let him have the corner. There's no point in diving that one. These cars, they're all quite slow, so you really have to have a bit of an advantage to overtake the other car. They're quite long braking zones, you do have to brake a bit earlier than you would most of the time. That's both the car and the sports hard tyres that we're on. These N300 races can be a bit of a mixed bag. You never really know what you're going to get. But this race turned out to be an absolute cracker. It was a bit nuts because everybody was so close. The draft kept us within touch of each other. But my goal going into it, I qualified fifth or fourth, and the goal was top three. Points for the top three were good, and so that was what I was aiming for. See, Adam took that nicely then. For the rest of the race, you'll notice that Holland, Noble and Adam all take quite a wide exit through there where I don't. I didn't trust it. I obviously didn't quite figure out how to do that first corner without getting a penalty. Go around the outside of Adam here. He slows up quite nicely. We give each other the room. And I get a better drive than him out of that corner. Only just though. Only just. I think I'm 0.05 ahead of him at this stage. And I was really hoping to outbrake him, but I knew Holland was there. Holland goes and gives him a bump. And I have to wait for Holland because he goes up the inside of me, and then Noble takes advantage as well. I try to get as good of a drive as possible. Holland goes a bit wide, so I can't get round him. And then I have Noble to contend with on the right. A bit of a bump, he kind of turned into me there. But not a big deal, really. Especially at these speeds in these cars. I hold an inside line, Noble goes a bit wide. I thought he might understeer too much out here, but actually claims the high ground quite nicely. Takes the inside, gets a better run, and I know from here I cannot go through the next right-hander side by side. So I have to let him go. But I've got to try to do it without letting Kenemos past, which I just barely manage, and Kenemos also does the sensible thing and pulls out of that move, because it was just going to slow both of us down. But that was really good driving, really close driving. Bit annoyed that Holland cost me 2 places, and I was hoping to get back there. Getting into second place early on was quite surprising. That's about the widest I run through turn 1, and even then I get worried I might pick up a penalty, but the other 3, as you saw, took it quite wide quite comfortably and no penalty, so something I have to learn for next time. So we rejoin lap 5 into turn 2. Art locks a brake going into the second hairpin. I get a good run through the apex. He gets a bit wobbly on the exit, and so it allows me to pull up side by side with him down to the run into the hairpin. So I was close enough to actually make a dive and claim the inside line. I wasn't quite beside him, but he left me the room, so I was obliged to take it going through here. Quite nicely done side by side. We both give each other just enough room to get through there. I'm on the inside turn for this right hand corner, even though it's not that sharp, and just managed to pull ahead of him for the left-hander. So that was that place back. Holland is just lagging there. He's actually not out in the sand trap, in the gravel trap, but he does pick up a penalty from going wide somewhere. So that was good. After 3 laps and the top 3 just being out of my reach, Holland and Adam were having a few battles which held up Noble, which allowed me to catch back up and back into the draft. And I got past Noble at the first opportunity I could. Kinemos, after his penalty on lap 2, he had caught back up. He lost about a second, but had gained that back on me almost. And with the battle with Art, he's right on our tail, as you can see. So with Holland, he's about a second ahead. With the penalty, I was hoping to make some sort of a move into the hairpin. The penalty zone is after turn 2 on the run down to the hairpin, so I knew that's where he was going to have to slow down and serve that penalty. So heading into lap 8 out of 9. Art Noble, I guess, picked up a penalty or made a mistake, and he fell back behind Kinemos and is about 2 seconds behind us. Kinemos, as you can see, is right in the rear view. Holland picked up 2 more 0.5 second penalties, and at this stage he was about 2 seconds ahead of me. Even though he had served that penalty earlier, I could not capitalise on it. He pulled away, pulled back into up behind Adam, and is now having to serve his penalty. So he sticks to the right hand side of the road. I kind of think about going right, but then I figure I'd just go around him entirely because I had the run on him. I knew where to brake. I give him the room, give him the inside line, and I try to get on the power as early as possible. He gives me a little tap, but as you can see, he is now in the rear view mirror and I'm pulling away. We've got a lap and a half to go, and I just had to hold on to second from here. And I knew, given half a chance, he would attempt a dive or a bit of an overtake, so I had to just drive as fast as I could. I'd made a few mistakes. They were really small mistakes, but I knew I was running a bit deep in some corners, so I was just going to be a bit more sensible for these last 2 laps, just to maintain that gap. I had about 0.3 or 0.4 of a second, and you need to be a lot closer before you attempt to dive. Not that would stop some people. And on to the last lap. I knew this was an important corner. I slowed it up quite nicely, nailed the apex, and drove off it as quickly as I could. Though Holland takes a wider line, gets a better run, I just need to hold the inside line for this corner. If I can hold the inside line, he has to go the long way around, I should be able to get a better drive out of this one. So I had the advantage going in here, even though he had pulled slightly ahead. So give him the room, pull it up in the apex and get a good drive, a little bit squirrely. Holland goes a little bit wider, but it gave me the position. It keeps me ahead by about 0.3 of a second, which is all I need. I knew I was safe going into the hairpin, and they were really the danger zones on this track. The rest of the track is very difficult to overtake without the driver ahead making a mistake, so it was really on me not to make a mistake, which is easier said than done because these are quite slippery cars, quite fun to drive actually. When you get used to how they behave and how they slide about, they're quite a bit of fun to drive. So last 2 corners, 0.3 of a second ahead, nice and early on the brakes to get a good drive out of the second last corner. Holland gets a better drive, he goes and taps me into this one, pushes me wide, and I figured that may give him a penalty, because often you get a shortcut penalty for going out wide there. He doesn't actually get a penalty, but I managed to hold on to the position by 0.044 of a second, just from his perspective. Gets in the power a bit earlier than I do, goes out wide a little bit. Yeah, he was not braking in time for that corner. He gives me the room, and fortunately enough I had enough momentum to carry me across the line. Just ahead of him. I would have been so annoyed. So annoyed. I'll just say that. So yeah, that was it. Quite a full-on race. going back and actually watching the replay, there wasn't as many overtakes as I remembered it, but it was just so intense driving these things and trying to keep within the lines, because it's so easy to pick up penalties. I think I was one of the only top 10 drivers, top 10 in this race to not get a penalty round here for the race, which I was quite happy with, and that ultimately gave me the position ahead of Holland. But yeah, that move by Holland at the end, the bump into the last corner, it's not surprising, but it would have, if I'd lost the place to him, because I thought he was going to get a penalty for knocking me off the track, but it didn't give him one. And if I had actually lost out to him, I would have been so annoyed, because he hit Adam into turn 3 on lap 2, which cost me 2 places. You know, just some sloppy driving, some sloppy overtakes, like so. You know, you got away with that one, but you know, it's a bit rough when you're at the receiving end of it. Like you're trying your best, you're driving a clean race, and you're at the receiving end of somebody else who's just a bit of a loose cannon. So yeah, I would have been fine if you took Adam out and I took the win. You know, just saying, just hints for next time if you're gonna continue on your ways. But yeah, to be on the receiving end, like, you never want to lose a race or lose positions because of that. So a bit frustrating. Well, it didn't turn out to be frustrating. I was pleasantly surprised. I could not believe I picked up second place in a good haul of points. And it was a fun race, really intense racing. The drivers, like Adam, nearly got him on the first lap, but then he managed to pull away. He's very quick. Kenemos stuck behind me for most of that race and drove me cleanly, which he always does. And Noble had some good side-by-side action, so really good racing all around. Really lots of fun this time. Last N300 race was a bit boring and wasn't that intense, but this one was brilliant. These cars are awesome. I look forward to doing them again. So until next time, thank you for coming along and watching. I hope you like what you see. If you did, you can give us a like and subscribe. Otherwise, to see the races live, follow me on Twitch. I do the FIA races every Wednesday and Saturday. Until then, thank you for coming along, and bye-bye.